And there's so many different forms of insurance. There's health insurance, life insurance, critical insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, and yes, travel insurances, which is what a majority of this conversation is going to be about. But I will touch on the other um, ones as well and why they're so important.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day, and welcome to the 200th episode of Give a Heck. Since I started this journey back in November of 2020, that's right, you heard correctly. I started this podcast during the pandemic. I've had some absolutely amazing guests on that have spoken about so many different fantastic topics. We've discussed anything from empathy to people discussing narcissism to people discussing their journeys through the Holocaust, people discussing, just how to better your life, how they've gone through adversity and tragedy and what they've done to give a heck about their life. The whole premise of this podcast is, has that person or you or myself given a heck about life? Have we gone through trials and tribulations? Have we figured out what exactly it is the challenges we're facing, what we can do to continue to climb in life instead of being camped? I've gone through all of that myself throughout my life, and I still have highs, I still have lows. I'll hit that valley of despair, and I have to do specific things to get myself out of that. And a lot of it has been personal development that has helped me continue to climb and grow in my life so that I can continue to be the best version of myself, so that I can develop, be a better version, be able to serve others, to help out humankind, to help out mankind, and be a servant of others. Because serving others helps us serve ourselves, to feel worthy, to be allowed to have that joy, that gratefulness, that gratitude that we all deserve because we've made a difference. But remember, making a difference starts with us. So today's episode is going to be about insurance. I know that sounds kind of weird, but for those that have been following me for a long time, I am a finance and insurance planner and I have been for 21 years. And recently, something occurred in my life, in my family's life, that was a giant wake up call that I needed to make sure I discussed this with others out there in the world, the importance of why insurance is so valuable in our lives. And there's so many different forms of insurance. There's health insurance, life insurance, critical insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, and yes, travel insurances, which is what a majority of this conversation is going to be about. But I will touch on the other ones as well and why they're so important. So in life, there's things that, we don't like. We hear the term, we hear, somebody communicate about it, and we get, squeamish about it. We get all, oh, why would I want to do that? I don't understand that. That's just going to cost me money. I don't see the value in spending more money because we're always a person or a group of people in society that wants tangible things right now. We don't want to see the outcome when it's required. We want to see an outcome right now for the money that we're spending. And what I mean by that, like look at life insurance, for an example. Life insurance pays out in the event of a tragedy in your family to replace the number one asset that you really have, which is your income. And most people don't understand that. If you were to lose your income, how would your family be if they had no income coming in anymore? Would they be able to pay the mortgage? Would they be able to buy food? Would they be able to put, your kids through college or university or help them in times of trials and tribulations? Right? Most people don't get that. They don't understand that life insurance is a peace of mind thing. And again, I've talked about this before. You're certainly welcome to reach out to me and we'll have a conversation in depth of the power of life insurance and why it is not a cost, it is an investment in your family. And for those of you out there that are listening to this that are single, yes, life insurance is still valuable. What happens if something was to happen to you tomorrow and you were to pass away? Would your family be able to afford a funeral for you or a celebration of life, whatever you want to call it? Would they be able to take time off work because the loss of your life was a tragedy that they just cannot fathom right at that point in their life, and they can't function, they can't work. It's emotionally and mentally challenging for them. And that little bit of life insurance you put on yourself, doesn't have to be a lot, could help them be able to grieve, be able to, again, bury you, cremate you, whatever the case may be. But it would be able to help your parents, if you're a single adult, be able to cope and move forward. Maybe you have siblings and it would cause a lot of tragedy in their life. Maybe that could help them too, as well, be able to grieve and take some time off work and just better themselves as they deal with the loss of yourself. So, again, life insurance isn't just for people that are, have a significant other and children or just a significant other. It could be a single individual. I have this discussion all the time with young people why the power of life insurance is good for them to protect their family, that their parents, their siblings, etc. So again, we talked a little bit about life insurance. The biggest thing that I wanted people to grasp, though, is why is travel insurance so important? Well, travel insurance, when you travel to, let's say, a country like the United States, or you travel to Europe, or you travel to places in the world, is so important because you are not covered by that local healthcare system, right? And even people that live there aren't necessarily covered properly by their own healthcare system. Prime example is what goes on in the United States. Canada has a little bit more of a what they call a universal healthcare system, though those that live here know it's got its brokenness and needs some work. It is still better than most countries where we can go to a doctor. We don't have to pay out of pocket to get help. If we end up in the hospital, we don't have to pay out of pocket to get help, right? But things and times are changing. So even if you're somebody that travels to Canada, you're not covered by our local healthcare system. You need travel insurance. Well, this story I'm about to tell you is a true story that happened at the beginning of July here. I have 5 kids. One of my adult daughters and her significant other and children were in the United States on a holiday. She come down with something on their last leg of their journey to come back up to Canada and ended up in a state hospital in Montana. What wasn't expected was the fact of how sick she got, and she was stuck into an ICU unit and was there for 6 days until she managed to get healthy enough where we could get her back up to Canada. Well, the problem is most people don't realize, and here's the shocker, had she not had travel insurance, she would have had to have come up with $68,000 US dollars. right? As a Canadian, with our exchange rate, you convert that, it's approximately $93,000 Canadian for 6 days in the hospital. Do you realize how many people travel down to the US that I have experienced and communicated with that didn't have travel insurance, broken a leg, gotten a $20,000 hospital bill, had a baby, got handed a $90,000 hospital bill because of the challenges that went on with them having their baby down in the US, and they had no travel coverage. You can't escape it. It comes after you, and it'll be a debt situation that could take you years to pay off. Or if you have savings, wipe out your savings. Really, at the end of the day, though, my daughter, I sold her some travel insurance through a reputable company that I've been using for many years. And that company literally gets direct billed by the hospital to pay that debt. Plus, on top of that, they are able to submit some of their receipts for their hotel stays and some of their food and have that reimbursed as well. Let's see. For 4 kids and 2 adults, the policy was just a little less than $300 for 18 days. Well, you tell me what the rate of return is for even if you round it up to $300 and a policy like that pays out $68,000 US or $93,000 Canadian. I'd say that's a pretty good rate of return. Well, you'll say to yourself, well, I've traveled to the US or I've traveled to Europe or other countries and I've never had issues. Well, I'm telling you right now, I also had a daughter years back that traveled to Bali, and she had gotten her own travel insurance from a company that I've never utilized. Well, they found out the hard way. The end result, many years later, they've had to pay for a lot of the expenses out of pocket. There was some group health insurance in place for traveling for her fiance, but it didn't cover very much. And her policy, based on how the circumstances that they got into, wouldn't cover the expenses at all of their tragedy that they went through. So this happened in 2019. 5 years later, fast forward, and they're still dealing with health concerns out of their own pocket, right? Guesstimating upwards of $100,000 that they've spent so far on their health issues, that if they had had a proper healthcare policy like I implement for my clients, it would have covered them. The policy I got from my daughter and her significant other and 4 kids covers them for $10 million. And people will go, well, that's way too much. You obviously don't know what it costs to go into a medical institution, that's hospital, pardon me, in another country, right? And I'm telling you, you can actually Google it to see what it costs for medical procedures and stays in different hospitals for tests, etc. It adds up very, very fast. And yes, you're right. You may have traveled numerous times and never ever needed it. But why would you not want to spend a few $100s to go and get yourself protected to travel for yourself as a single individual or with a significant other or with your significant other and children? Why would you want to take that risk? The peace of mind is so great when you have that piece of paper, that contract that you paid a few $100s for. And obviously it costs more based on where you're going or how long your stay is, but it is something that is so prudent to have to save your butt. And I've given you 2 examples of 2 of my 5 kids, one that again didn't have proper coverage. And for those that think that credit card coverage is good, it's lacking as well. Yes, they tout the fact MasterCard, Visa will, if you pay for your flight or your trip on your credit card, you'll have X amount of medical coverage. Read the fine print though. It's not as easy to get as you think it is. And the coverage is usually very limited, right? Sometimes it's a maximum of $1 million. Sometimes it might only be $100,000. Well, let's put this into perspective. The daughter that just had the issues in the States, Credit card insurance wouldn't have covered it properly. Number one, they didn't fly down, they drove down. Number two, if you don't pay for everything with that credit card, you aren't necessarily covered. Again, read the fine print. Now, if you have group coverage, well, I have coverage from my job, Dwight. They give me travel insurance. And I'll use an example. It's not picking on any company because it doesn't matter who it is. It could be in Canada, it could be Sun Life, it could be Great West Life, it could be Manulife, it could be Blue Cross, right? It doesn't matter. They give you a certain amount of coverage automatically with your health care, right? From your job, but the coverage is very minimal and it doesn't cover everything. And it doesn't make it easy for you to get reimbursed or, basically have an easy time of dealing with it. So make sure you check. Don't assume that your work coverage for travel is good enough. A lot of them have a maximum of 14 days of travel too at any given period of time. So if you went away 3 weeks, you'd be covered 14 days, not the full 3 weeks. Yes, you can pay for extra travel coverage on most of those plans by reaching out to the carriers. But did you know that you have a limited amount of coverage? Did you know you had a limited amount of time? Right? So, why is there specific types of insurance? Well, again, there's specific type of insurance depending on what's going on in your life. And in the circumstances of travel, there is specific travel insurance from carriers that will cover you. You can get, you know, coverage, like I said, $10 million for emergency travel coverage. You can spend more money and even get trip cancellation insurance. If something happens on your trip and you fly somewhere and, you get ill, where they'll pay for you to fly home. I've had clients where that's happened, right? It pays for them to fly home so they can get home. Or if they're too ill to be able to be flown back to where they live, they'll fly a caregiver in or a significant other, somebody that can come there to be with you, and they'll pay for the expenses of that person getting there, plus, X amount for staying in a hotel and food, etc. Right? Is it 100% foolproof? Absolutely not. But for the few dollars that you have to spend, isn't the peace of mind worth it? I believe it is. And now my daughter, who is now back in Canada, has been back in the hospital here, is still struggling with the health issues, which I'm not going to share. It's not my story to tell, except for to tell you that the story of what travel insurance has done for them. Right? She's back in the country and has been grateful and touting the power of travel insurance and understands now why it's important and why I have gotten into discussions with them when she's traveled before of why it's so important she needs travel insurance, including comments or conversations from her and others of why they can't justify the cost, but yet they can justify the cost thousands of dollars to fly places or to, pay for hotels and the food. And let's say you're in some place like Disneyland, right? And you got to pay for passes to go in the park, and you got to pay to go to Universal Studios, or you're wherever. It doesn't matter where you're traveling in the world. When I traveled to Europe last year, obviously, as a person that does this for a living, I had travel insurance. And I made sure I got very good travel insurance because of the fact that you never know what can happen. And if nothing happens, oh, wow, that peace of mind is so invaluable, right? It is just, you basically don't understand. If at this point listening to me, you don't get it, reach out to me, right? You can find me on social media. You can find me on Google, my name, Dwight Heck. You can go to giveaheck.com, right? Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. I may not be able to help you get travel insurance, right? I only am licensed to sell it in a couple provinces in Canada, but I can certainly educate you for no cost and have a conversation and answer your questions as to why it is so important and what it has done for, again, family members just recently and clients. So think about it. Could you come up with 68,000 United States dollars? as a Canadian traveling down to the US or traveling to Europe, if you got handed a huge bill that was in euros, could you afford it? Because the euro and the Canadian dollar are at around the same exchange rate as the Canadian dollar is to the US. So if they handed you a $93,000 Canadian bill, which equated to again around 60, 70,000 euro, could you afford to pay it? Because you can't escape it just because you flew back to your country. They're still going to come after you. You're still going to be held liable for that debt. And how is that going to put pressure on you and your family? Maybe you're already struggling. This is a once in a lifetime vacation and you already saved up for it, or you paid for that vacation on credit, lines of credit, whatever the case may be, a loan, and you knew it was going to take you a few years to pay it off. Now all of a sudden you have a medical bill that could bury your family, or maybe it'll hurt other family members because they'll have to help you because you don't have enough financial power to continue to live a life on purpose and not by accident. And the accident part is you didn't get travel insurance. Maybe you didn't understand the value of it, but it is so valuable. So we won't beat that topic anymore, except for the fact, please reach out. It made a huge difference again in my daughter's life. She's back in Canada recovering, but had she not had travel insurance, it would have literally crushed them financially with 4 kids back in Canada, living from month to month like most Canadians or most Americans live, or most people around the world that live from paycheck to paycheck. It would have caused financial distress, which causes emotional and mental distress as well. And it's not going to. And it costs less than $300 to ensure the rate of return of what is getting paid to the medical system in the US, right, is well worth it. Trust me, you need to get life insurance as well. We'll talk about that. I already touched on it. And we're going to talk about a few other types of life insurance. And insurance that you can have for your life. We won't quickly touch on the life insurance stuff. We're going to touch on what most of us have every single day for insurance. If you have a home, you have home insurance. Why do you have that? Well, peace of mind. What happens if my house burns down? Who's going to replace it? What's going to happen? Well, you go and get home insurance, even though I can't sell it. I understand the value of it. It's still a form of insurance. You don't get a rate of return on making that payment every single month, but you do it. Why do you do it? Why do you buy auto insurance? I've never been in an accident, Dwight. It's such a waste of money. I can tell you horror stories of people that have been in auto insurance, or pardon me, auto accidents, and that auto insurance, what it's done for them in my own personal life, in my clientele's life, in people that I know. And again, this is just in Canada. It's in the United States. It's in Europe. It's all over the place. Home and auto insurance is a given. But yet people still complain about it because they've never needed it, right? Oh, it's useless. Dwight, I'm spending all this money, and I look at them and go, it's useless until it's not. So you've been lucky at this point in your life and you haven't had an accident. You've been lucky in this life and you haven't had any tragedy happen to your house. Hail insurance, tornado, hurricane, fire, theft, the list goes on. I've experienced it all. Some of it personal, some of it again through clients or family or people I know from around the world. So quit complaining about the cost of having peace of mind. Having home insurance, having auto insurance, you may not like it, but when you need it, it's there. It's there to protect you. I know people that have been in horrific auto accidents, horrific, and it's changed their life for the rest of their life. And the auto insurance ensured that they got help through physiotherapy, maybe chiropractor, maybe massage, maybe special therapy to recuperate, to move forward in their lives. right? And then you have the ability, depending on where you live, to go after the other insurance company for loss of existence in life, having the same existence you had before the accident when you weren't at fault for it, right? So auto insurance is so important, right? Don't skimp on it. I get it, it's an expense. But if you're the type of person that'll go and spend money and go to a concert, go to a sporting event, go to a movie, go out for Starbucks or whatever coffee or treats you like to buy every single day, and you're spending 4, 5, 10, 15, $20 a day on this stuff. Do you know how cost effective it is to have auto insurance, to have home insurance? Again, I do not sell either of those products, but I understand the value of it. And the value of it ties right to products like life insurance as well. Think of this. Today, you get in your vehicle. If you're a Canadian, maybe you're getting in your vehicle and you're going to stop at the local Tim Hortons or Starbucks for you Americans, because some American states have Tim Hortons, but many don't know what it is. It's just another coffee chain like Starbucks. And most tragedies and accidents and death happen within a few blocks of your home. So you're going to drive to go get your coffee to go to work, or it's a Saturday and you're just laid back, you're kicked back and you want to have yourself a coffee. Maybe you want to grab yourself a donut. You get in the vehicle and you're thinking, nothing's going to happen. And you drive to the local coffee shop or local restaurant, and somebody goes to an intersection because they're not paying attention, because they're texting and driving, they're distracted, they T-bone you and kill you. Harsh, right? Of course it's harsh. This conversation is to wake you up, to wake us all up as to the power of why insurance in all forms is so important and the value you need to put to it. So all of a sudden, it was a mom, a dad, whatever the case, or maybe it's both, and they pass away. And now the kids have no parents, or the significant other lost their other significant other. The husband or wife has passed away. And they were the main source of income to bring in money into the house, to pay the mortgage, to pay the bills, to make sure there's food on the table. And you were a person that didn't have a lot. Maybe you're young in your life, or something has happened within your life. You're in your 40s, 50s, and you don't have a lot. And you're living from paycheck to paycheck. Now all of a sudden you lose one of those paychecks. Or maybe it was the only source of a paycheck. Then what? Now your kids suffer. Your significant other suffers. Maybe they lose the home. Maybe they aren't able to stay there and they have to move in with their parents. I know people where that's happened. They've lost their significant other. They've had to move them and their kids in with their parents because they can't afford to survive, because there was no life insurance in place. There was no protection mechanism in place to protect the family. Now, what else is life insurance good for? Well, person passes away. If they're properly insured, they can pay off the house so they don't have a mortgage. Or maybe they don't want to pay off the house and they utilize a financial planner such as myself, and we do some structuring and figuring out what is the best purpose for that life insurance payout. Believe me, I've done this many times for people, so I'm not talking like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do. I've helped many people that have lost significant others and loved ones to understand what they can now do with that payout. Right? We sit down and we figure it out. Some people, let's pay off the house. Other people, no, if I pay off the house, I won't have enough cash because we didn't have enough insurance. We only had enough that'll pay off the house. Well, that's not good. If you can pay off the house and it may get rid of the mortgage payment, but you don't leave yourself enough of a nest egg to continue to move forward with your children, if you have kids, and pay for their extracurricular and pay for their college, university, or whatever the case may be. My point is if you're a person that has life insurance, make sure you have a good financial planner, a good financial advisor that can help you understand what to do after that person, your significant other, passes away. And as a side note, if it's both people that end up passing away, I hope whoever is listening or watching this, you have a will that dictates who's going to take your kids and how they're going to be taken care of. And is their will talking about trusts, right? To make sure that there's a trustee, to make sure if there's insurance payout, that it's taken care of in an appropriate way for your kids. And I am not a lawyer, but I deal with these products all the time with my clients, right? Some of them individuals, some of them couples, some of them businesses, right? There's lawyers that can help you do a proper will. There's also websites you can go to that actually do good ones. There's actually terrible wills, but you just do a little bit of research. Reach out to me. I'll direct you to people if you're in my country, in my province of Alberta, possibly BC. I can direct you to online services that are cost effective to help you put in a will. Very, very important, right? You want to make sure that your children are taken care of because, again, been doing this a long time. I know people where both parents have perished in an auto accident. No life insurance. Family had to take on the kids, right? And that affected the financial stability of that family taking on those kids, right? At the end of the day, proper life insurance, you can dictate who the trustee is. You can say this amount of life insurance goes to for the kids and it's going to be into a trust. It's going to help out the kids if they utilize going to college or university. Oh, maybe you have to move into a bigger house, right? Maybe you're the sister or the brother of the people that passed away and you take on 2 kids. I know somebody had to take on 4, but let's use 2 kids for an example. That life insurance money can be dictated within your will, that it's going to be used, that they can use it to expand their current home if possible, or go get a bigger home and give them the necessary money to not hurt their bottom line with their current family, right? And still raise your children, right? Think about that. And most people don't. And I hope you do after listening to this. Again, reach out to me. You can have a free call with me. You can book a call at giveaheck.com and we can have a discussion. I don't care where you live. I'll have a discussion with you at no cost and the importance, and I'll answer any of your questions. And I can give you accounts, stories after stories of where insurance of all forms has made a difference in people's lives, from auto to home to travel to life. What about another type of insurance? Have any of you heard of critical illness insurance? Long-term care insurance? I never even brought that up. Well, what's critical illness insurance? Well, critical illness insurance, again, peace of mind. How many people today pass away from heart attacks, from cancer? There's so many other ailments they can get as well, right? But those are the 2 largest killers of people based on statistics. So you're somebody that loves your family, you're healthy, and it don't matter. There's people that are marathon runners that are super healthy that never smoked and drank a day in their life. And I'm not encouraging you to smoke and drink and think you're going to live longer, but it don't matter how healthy you are or unhealthy you are. You can be struck with cancer is my point. And I've known so many. I've lost so many people in my life to cancer, right? Critical illness. You get diagnosed with cancer, for an example, right? You literally have specific things that will protect you, will pay you out a lump sum of money so that you can, let's say you've been given 9 months to a year to live. Maybe you want to take your family and you're still healthy enough when they're treating you to be able to go on that dream vacation. Maybe use that money to get rid of some debt. Maybe use that money for whatever. You got options, you got choices. Without it, you don't have those options or choices. And yes, you're talking to a guy that believes so much in budgeting. You may be saying, well, I got all these things in my life and I can't afford that too. Guaranteed, if you budget with me and we went through your budget, you have a lot of things that are wants that you spend money on every single month. And the needs of insurance aren't even factored into that. And you might change your mind after hearing this and the power of what critical illness can do. I know some of the policies that I implement for people will cover 25 covered critical conditions. You can get them as low as $50,000 coverage to $250,000 to $500,000, depends which provider. Obviously, you have to be underwritten and qualify for it. But if all of a sudden you get diagnosed with cancer, and let's say you have 50,000 or $250,000 worth of critical illness insurance, you go through the waiting period and they pay it out to you. And now all of a sudden, you literally have the ability to pay off the debt because now you can't work. It'll pay off your debt. It'll pay off maybe you going on a holiday with your family because you have an illness that can't be cured, but yet you have this lump sum of money to do with what you will. Critical illness insurance is so powerful. Another type of insurance that people don't understand, long-term care insurance, right? I know people that would love to have long-term care insurance, and they have a adult child or a younger child, or they have a significant other, somebody that gets into an accident and now they're an invalid and they have to be in long-term care. Where do they come up with that money? That person isn't dead, so even if they had life insurance, it isn't necessarily going to pay them out a death cost. Some policies do have in place where you can tap into the death benefit for a long-term care solution for loved ones if something should happen, but most don't. Most don't have the coverage that you think they do. So if you have long-term care, you could have that person in long-term care facility and have those costs either subsidized or paid out 100%. It all depends. Every circumstance is different. Most people, though, they think to themselves, why would long-term care be, a justifiable cost? Well, for most people, long-term care for those circumstances I just mentioned, which are statistically very low, wouldn't spend the money. So I'm not saying when you go through all your costs and expenses that it is something that you're going to be able to justify. I just want you to understand long-term care can be very important. Most people that get long-term care, it's for being in your senior years. You can't stay on your own anymore. Maybe you are like some people that I've dealt with in my life that have Alzheimer's, dementia, and they can't stay on their own and they have to be in a care facility. And that care facility can be expensive. It can be $3,000 to $5,000 a month, depending on the services that you get from that facility, right? Whether or not you get a couple meals a day, whether or not you have, extracurricular activities, whether or not there's a doctor in the house, nurses, everything is options, which costs money. And long-term care can subsidize that expense for you, depending on what you get, or it can pay the whole expense. I know people that have looked at it and said, well, I can't afford this. And their adult children will all get together and justify the premium for it so that they don't put themselves on a financial burden to help their parents in the future, right? Maybe your senior parents can't afford it. Maybe they could never afford it, but now 3, 4 kids, you all sit down and it costs you X amount of money per month, and it can make a huge difference in your family's life, right? In your senior parents' life, right? Of course, there's families out there that bring on their loved ones that are seniors or somebody that, is struck down with an ailment, but can you actually take care of them? Do you have their financial, power to take care of them? The mental and emotional ability to take care of them? Maybe you will. What happens if you don't? So that's something else you can think about as well. The last thing that I will talk about in regards to insurance is long-term disability insurance. What is that, Dwight? I've never heard of it. Some of you maybe do understand what it is or think you understand. Long-term disability is insurance that can make a huge difference in your life if you get disabled or hurt. Some people get it through their group coverage at work. I'm here to tell you that most of it is very limited, right? There's short-term disability, there's long-term disability, but most of it is very short-term and it doesn't cover enough, right? Is there an underwriting process? like all of this insurance, majority of it has some form of underwriting. Some of it doesn't, right? Some forms of insurance don't, like your auto and home don't necessarily, unless you are been abuser of it. And then you can go through a bunch of processes to have to be able to get it or have anybody to insure you. But life insurance, depending on the amount, what it is, there's underwriting. Critical illness, there's underwriting. Long-term care, there's underwriting. And lastly, long-term disability or short-term disability, there's normally underwriting for it. On group policies, there isn't necessarily underwriting on it, but it also doesn't give you a lot of protection because of it. And there's a lot of caveats. It doesn't necessarily give you the flexibility of having defined separate long-term care, or pardon me, long-term disability, long or short-term disability policy. I have business clients that get it from me. I have individuals that have gotten it from me. What does it do? Well, you get disabled and you can't go to work. You're a self-employed dude. You're an entrepreneur, right? You're a person that has their own business and you have to pay for all your own stuff. Well, guess what? The power of having it is tenfold. All of a sudden you get injured and you can get different options of how long your elimination period is, well, how soon it'll pay out, how much it'll pay out. Obviously, there's underwriting involved in regards to finances so that you aren't abusing the system and you're only getting the amount of coverage that you actually should get. And you get disabled. Now, all of a sudden, they pay you money every single month so that you can continue to live, right? And recover and recuperate, right? Is that powerful? Absolutely. And the options on a lot of long-term disability policies would blow people's minds. Obviously, the more of a premier product, the more you're going to pay for it. It's what you need a financial person for, an advisor, a planner that can sit down and help you understand how it fits within your budget, whether or not any of this can fit into your budget. What is the most important out of all of it? And prioritize it, make goals, implement it, put your family into a state of peace of mind. All of a sudden, you're going to have a quicker step as you live life. You're going to feel better. You're going to be more grateful because behind the scenes, you know, you got yourself and your family, your children, your loved ones covered. Right. So again, there is other forms of insurance out there. Maybe I'll have more discussions about this. Let me know. Reach out. Drop me a comment below. Get a hold of me. If you want to learn more about this stuff, or you want me to just specifically cover one type of product and all of its pros and cons, I'm more than willing to do that. So again, I've been in this industry now for 21 years. And prior to this, I was like many of you, I didn't understand the power of all forms of insurance and why a person should have it. But I'm here to tell you just recently the power of travel insurance and what was able to be utilized to help out my daughter, her significant other, and 4 kids is mind-blowing, especially when you see the bill that the hospital sent a copy of so that she could see it, and how it floored her and floored a lot of people. I had guesstimated it would be around that cost, and people looked at me and like I was cuckoo, that I wasn't in sound mind and body. But I understand how expensive it can be because of 21 years in this industry to travel and have something happen. And I also understand how it can crush a person and their life by not having the proper travel insurance, right? Again, happens with my family. It's happened to other people I know. Get travel insurance. Get other forms of insurance. Obviously, travel insurance, you maybe only travel once a year. Just get an individual policy for that many days. Maybe you travel multiple times a year and you want to get an annual travel policy. But regardless of that, talk to somebody. If I can't help you in your wherever you live, I can certainly have a conversation and give you confidence and possibly communicate with the people in your local area that you are interested in utilizing to make sure that you're going to get what you deserve, what you need. But it all starts with having a plan. Sit down, plan it out, figure out if your budget can fit in one, two, all of it. Maybe it can't. Maybe it only can fit in life insurance. Have some peace of mind, have some coverage. At the end of the day, I appreciate you listening to me. I hope this makes sense. I hope it makes you think. And I hope to hear from some of you. Again, giveaheck.com. Go check it out. Check out my website. Book a free call. I don't care where you're located. I don't care if I can help you and utilize and offer you a product or service. I want to offer you something that I never had prior to this, and that's the peace of mind of knowing what all this can do for my life. Remember that part of the conversation? How many of you actually understood or give weight and understood the power of just having that auto and home insurance that you've got and why it is so important? And if you don't have it, because I know there is people that don't have home insurance because they think that they're bulletproof, seriously, go get it. Find somebody that sells general insurance, your home insurance, and get it. Those of you that have auto insurance and you got the most basic form, basic coverage, some of you have no choice because it's so expensive. Other of you just do it because, I'd rather spend that money on other things, going to a movie, going to a concert, or whatever other thing that you have as entertainment in your life. I'm here to tell you, you could be that person that wish you would have had that better coverage. And on that note, I thank you again for listening to me. This has been the 200th episode of Give a Heck. And I want to thank you, all my loyal listeners, all the people that have been watching on YouTube over these last over 2.5 years now. And, I really appreciate you. If there's value that you think that my podcast can give to people, please share it. Please go on to the podcast service that you listen to my podcast on and leave a ranking and a review. These podcast players see this, and it gives it, the algorithm will make sure more people see the Give a Heck podcast. And we'll have the opportunity to learn from so many great people that I've had on. Again, many of the podcasts have nothing to do with finance or insurance. It just so happens that I had this happen with my child here recently in the last few weeks. And I wanted to share with you all the truth and the facts of what insurance can do for you and the difference it can make in your life. But again, so many great people I've had on, so many great individuals. I've had branding experts on. I've had sleep experts on that teach people the power of sleep recently. I've had people on that are specialists in how to identify narcissism and how it affected their life and how they became a person that goes out and coaches and helps people how to identify and escape that type of life. I offer it all on my podcast. Again, it's called Give a Heck for a reason. And for those of you that want to learn a little bit more about me, check out my book, my best-selling book. You can find it on Amazon, anywhere in the world. Give a Heck, How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. I look forward to talking to hopefully many of you, whether it be in print or verbally, on an audio or a video call. I thank you for your time. I look forward to continuing to present more content and have on so many more guests over the next couple hundred episodes. Have a fantastic summer. God bless you all. Peace to you all, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to Give a Heck.